Unforbidden Truth.
Welcome to Unforbidden Truth. I'm Andrew. As of September 2022, Unforbidden Truth is officially 2 years old. Today I'm going to play some memorable clips from some memorable interviews that come to mind when people usually ask me which interviews stick out to me more than others. First, you will hear convicted Ohio murderer Jeffrey Hill, who stabbed and killed his mother. Jeffrey has since been released from prison. Mind you, he was scheduled to die at one point in time, prior to getting resentenced. The second series of clips you will hear is that of Mariel Bemis, who was convicted in the state of Georgia, killing her daughter, Layla, smothering her to death with a pillow. Mariel is serving life in prison for the murder of her daughter. The third clips feature that of an inmate in the state of Washington, which I was born and raised in, David Rice, who was a mass murderer. He's responsible for the murders of the Goldmark family, which occurred on January 24th, 1985. David Rice believed the family to be communists and of Jewish descent. He was originally sentenced to death for his role in the crimes. He was later resentenced to life without the possibility of parole on multiple counts. David Rice is actually the first interview that I released on Unforbidden Truth, and if you go back and listen to that, compare it to, say, this episode or 20, 30 episodes back, you can definitely notice with sound quality and everything. The fourth clips are that of Joshua Rudiger, a vampiric murderer who slashed the throats of 3 homeless men and 1 homeless woman in 1998, drinking their blood afterwards, resulted in the death of 1 woman. Fast forward to 2020, and Josh has been charged with, and has confessed to me, to killing a fellow inmate by slitting his throat, drinking his blood, and taking his soul to the underworld, according to Rudiger. Rudiger was sentenced to 23 years to life in prison in 1999 on the homeless men and woman attacks. He's currently awaiting to go to court over the fellow inmate killing. The second to last clip features that of Washington State serial killer, the Jungle Killer, Dwayne Harris. Harris killed 3 women around an area known as the Jungle in Seattle, Washington. Harris is serving a 94-year prison sentence for the 3 murders. Last but not least, we have Todd Kohlhepp, which are the longest clips, which is why I left them for last. Todd Kohlhepp is both a mass murderer and a serial killer, which seems to be pretty rare. This interview is the most extensive that I've ever done with a prisoner to date, which consists of a 4-part interview, a little over 4 hours long. I asked Todd anything as he told me nothing was off limits, and it's been one of my favorite interviews I've done to date. Thank you everybody that listens to Unforbidden Truth for all this support and having the opportunity to even make it 2 years into the podcast game. Here's the 2-year anniversary memorable interview clips that I've compiled.
What was going on in my life during that time? It was chaotic. I had a lot of responsibility. Now, let me explain something. I'm not making any excuses for anything that I did. I take full responsibility for what I did. I'm not trying to minimize anything or justify bad behavior. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just telling you the facts of what happened that led up to me stabbing my mother, as you say, 10 times. During that time of my life, I just had a lot of different things going on, and everything started with my dad passing, like months prior to that. My dad died he died of cancer, and when I didn't find out until he was in his final stages what was really going on. Even though I was there, nobody was telling me what was going on. And by the time I found out how serious it was, he just died. And it put me in a bad place. The day that I buried my father, I was high. I had started doing crack cocaine when I found out that he was dying.
Was that the first time you smoked crack, or have you done it prior to that?
No. It was around the time that my father was dying. When I found out that he was dying, that's when I got hooked on the crack. So during that time, I was struggling to deal with everything that was going on, trying to bury him, trying to take care of my kids, trying to make sure my mom and everybody in my life that I had been looking out for was okay. And it was like I was carrying all this weight and I didn't know how to carry it. And I felt that I didn't have anybody there that I could talk doing the drug. And I thought I was in control during that time. I thought I was in control of getting high because I was still going to work. I was still doing everything that I was normally doing, except that now I had an addiction that was spiraling out of control, and I didn't know that it was spiraling out of control. And fast forward months later, I'm still dealing with the loss of my father passing. And what I didn't know at the time, that I had all these issues towards my mom. I didn't know how deeply rooted these issues were. I didn't find all of that out until years later, where all that anger came from. And I had my mom that wanted me to come over to her house and talk to her about why I had been neglecting her by not coming around like I normally do. Only time my mom would really see me is when I would take money over there, or she would press me to come over there, because what I was trying to do was hide my addiction from her. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was, and she wanted to talk to me about it. And I was trying to avoid having that conversation with her because, one, I was afraid to tell her that I was addicted, that I needed help. I wanted to ask for help, but I didn't know how she would perceive it. Because of my guilt and the shame that I was carrying around, I didn't think that she would help me. Why I thought that way, I don't know, but that's how I was thinking during that time. I didn't think anybody would help me, so I tried to hide it from everybody that was close to me. And the day that I went over to my mom's house, my addiction had gotten to, it was in a very, very bad place to where I had developed around a $400 a day habit. And I was just really out of control as far as that was concerned. But once again, like I said, at the time, I didn't even know that it had spiraled out of control like that. I honestly thought that I was in control. And reality was that I wasn't, because me and my mom got into an argument that day over me stealing money from her. And at that particular time, the love for that drug outweighed the love for my mom, and I ended up taking her. I chose getting high over loving my mom that day. And that's how my mom lost her life. She just told me no. I asked her for some money, and she told me no. And that was the, when I heard no, I'm not giving you any money to continue high. That's not exactly what she said. She didn't say that. She just said no. Because I had just got paid like 2 or 3 days prior to that, after I had just took her some money. So when I heard that no, I just heard no. From my perspective, it was like, nah, I don't have anything for you. So I couldn't figure out how I was going to get that next high. And the next thing you know, I had stabbed my mom, and I hadn't even realized that I had stabbed her at that time. One of the things that I've always tried to figure out was, where did all the anger come from? Because growing up in my mom's house, it was like, I may have been angry at her for whooping us or something like that, or chastising us for not doing something. I might have been angry, but I didn't know that anger was that deep in me, like to the point to where I resented her for how she treated me and my brother. The sad reality is, my mom lost her life because I didn't have that conversation with her. I didn't know how. I didn't even know how to ask for help like I do today. As crazy as this sounds about what I'm about to say, my mom gave her life to save my life. And I know that sounds crazy, but
I just kind of remember, like, it's like I was watching myself, like, from above. Like, I'm watching what I'm doing. So, he left out, I don't know. There's a point in time I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was going back and forth, like, trying to figure out what to do. I went in the bathroom, and I was like, well, I'm just going to, like, take myself out of the picture, and all this, or whatever. And I was like, okay, well, I can't. It sounds dumb now when I'm saying it. Like, I was like, I can't leave Layla. So, I just thought about, like, everything, and it was like, basically, I felt like I wasn't going to be able to take care of her, but I was so worried that if I didn't, if, like, say my ex-husband had her or something, it would go back into the abuse, and it wasn't going to be something I would be able to do anything about because I didn't have the means to take care of her myself. The plan was to take both of our lives. It wasn't just her. I never felt like she was a burden. I just, like, I felt like, I still feel like I had failed her. I didn't do what I was supposed to as a mother. Like, I relied too heavily on men, and it's like, I just didn't, like, but I didn't know how to break the pattern of doing that with relationships and people. And it's like, I've dragged her from here to here to here to be with these people, and, like, it's all backfired in my face. And I just felt like she's been through so much shit, and I know that wasn't my decision to make. I just felt like it was wrong, and I felt like it was going to continue happening, whether because of me or because of somebody else. Like I said, I figured she'd end up with her father, and I knew that wasn't going to be a good decision. I took her in the bathroom. She was sleeping. I used a pillow. I think I thought it took forever, but it actually only took like a minute or two.
Did she wake up during the smothering?
Towards the end, yeah.
Was she able to make out any words? Was she telling you to stop?
She just, sorry. I just remember she said my name. She was like, "Mommy, mommy."
And then after you realized that she had stopped breathing, what was going through your head at the time knowing she just took her last breath?
I don't know. I was really spaced out. So I had this cord. I don't know if it was a cable cord. I don't know where I even got it. I had it, like, rigged up on the door. I was gonna hang myself. I remember the officer, like, got mad at me because I kept saying that. I guess maybe they thought I was being funny because I kept saying, like, well, where's my daughter? And she was just, like, really, like she was looking at me like, bitch, fuck you. They came, a detective came, I don't know any of their names or anything, and he was like, he told me to calm down, and he's like, we're going to help you, we're going to get you help. He's like, but you have to calm down. And I was like, okay. And I was like, where's my daughter? I want to see my daughter. And he was like, and I remember this very specifically, he's like, we're going to let you see your daughter, but you have to calm down so we can help you. So after that, like, I was still crying, but I was a lot quieter. And I just sat in the back of the car until we went to the police station. So that they put me in the little, like, interrogation room. And I sat in there. I don't know how long I sat in there. I remember a group of officers came in. There was probably like 4 or 5 of them. They all looked pretty young. They just came in and they opened the door and they were looking at me. I guess just seeing like who I was or whatever. And I remember saying to them, like, I was like, I want my baby. Can you get my baby or whatever? And one of the guys was like, oh, you want your baby? And he's like, you bitch. And then they shut the door.
The murders were not planned. I did check out the neighborhood. I've been told that Mr. Goldmark was a big mucky-muck in the American Communist Party. Of course, that turned out to be false. But what I'd gone there for was to question him. I was actually after one of the sabotage saboteur groups that are always located around our strategic bases. And those groups are still there to some extent. And of course, we have groups in Russia as well. But my intent was to take out one of those groups in hopes of slowing things down. Just got done burying my mother. I was in the midst of a separation and probable divorce. Things weren't going the way they were supposed to in any way, form, or fashion. And so I was under a great deal of stress, enormous amount of stress. And when that door opened, that turned out to be a failure as well. Something just clicked. From that moment on, I was on autopilot. It turned out that there were 2 kids there. That was enough of a shock that everything I had planned just disappeared. It evaporated. And I started walking through the door. As I'm walking, I'm saying, whoa, wait, let's get out of here. I had a toy pistol that I modified to look real. And I had that and a box that had a shipping label on it. It could look like I was delivering. I was a taxi driver. But at first I'd gone to the wrong house. I went to the next door neighbor's house. And that was just one more shock to the system. I snapped. And things just happened that I couldn't even understand, much less control. I took the kids upstairs where the folks were, and I'd taken a couple of pairs of handcuffs because I was ready for them to be there. I was going to question them. And I had chloroform so that there wouldn't be any stupid crap. I even had a pocket knife. I left that at home. I didn't want any stupidity. And that wasn't enough. I had them handcuffed. I had them on the floor. They were everything was going fine. And I don't know what happened. Somebody said, "Are you going to kill us?" And that was enough of a suggestion that I said, "Yeah." And I grabbed an iron, steam iron, and once I had them chloroformed over, started using the steam iron on them. I hit them again and again. And I don't even know why. That's not what I went there for. I went there to talk. I went there to find out where the saboteurs were. I didn't go there to hurt anybody.
Were they conscious, or were they still knocked out from the chloroform when you started essentially assaulting and killing them?
Yeah, they were still unconscious. It was him first, Charles, and then her, and then the 2 kids. After I beat him with the iron, I decided to go down and grab a knife out of the kitchen. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't wake up as vegetables. It was kind of a weird thought, but I didn't want them to be vegetables at all for any amount of time. So I used the kitchen knife to make sure that they never woke up.
My parents would take me everywhere when I was a child. Horseback riding. I learned how to ride a horse. And then when I got older, I trained that horse to use his hooves and stuff as weapons.
You would train him to, what, attack people or what?
In battle. In battle, the horse was trained to deal with enemy foot soldiers on the ground. You can imagine being a foot soldier and seeing a whole wall of horses coming at you. That means something. I made a blood pact with Lucifer around that time.
You made a blood pact with Lucifer?
Yeah. I made a contract for my soul for supernatural abilities. And that required me writing the contract in my own blood. Then I did the ritual, I summoned him, Lucifer, and we made the deal that way. I mean, he appeared in person in my quarters. I slept alone. I was in the back room by myself. So I went out, slept, I did that ritual, and I was talking to him the way I'm talking to you now. That's how I talked to him.
Have you been diagnosed with any mental illnesses?
They claim I have schizophrenia. Yeah, but that's just because the doctors, as you might realize, the doctors and psychiatrists and scientists don't believe in the supernatural. So they think anybody who claims to be associated with God, the devil, are crazy. Because most scientists don't believe in that.
Right. Do you hear
I
voices?
know better.
Do you hear voices or see anything that's not there or anything of the sort?
No. No.
Do you take any type of medication currently?
I'm on something for depression. If you read my paperwork, it stated I was in a series of hospitals behind my attempted harakiri, and winding up in the being committed in the hospital, because then when I got out of the hospital, that's when I started really doing my Luciferian stuff.
From what I've read about you, you claim to be a vampire, a 2,000-year-old vampire. Let's talk about that. What makes you think that you're a vampire?
Well, I drink blood. I had sharp teeth, but I filed them down because I would get biting my lips. But I can make them sharp again. I also can't be killed.
What makes you believe that? Have you had experiences that confirm that for you?
Yeah. One night I overdosed on benzodiazepines, and I woke up in the morgue. I came out to life in the morgue, so basically I was dead for a bit, and I came back. I still don't know how that happened. And also, I got cut in half beneath the wheels of a train, and I came back from that. What happened was, my buddies came when I was in the morgue, and they put me together and brought me back to life.
So, Josh, prior to the crimes that you committed, did you engage in any type of ritualistic killings or sacrifices, and or taking blood of animals and or humans?
Yes. I did rituals. But all my cases my last case, all the people I slashed, that was all ritualistic. I did that for Lucifer.
How did you select your victims? I know you slit the throats of 4 individuals, and unfortunately, one person passed away from their injuries.
A little secret, I have at least 2 more dead on top of that.
You have 2 more dead on top of that?
Yeah, the way I select my victims was they were at the right place at the right time where no one was around. It was in the middle of the night. It was in the middle of the night when I did it. So therefore, there wouldn't be any... I wasn't disturbed when I was doing that. No one interrupted me when I did that.
So after you drank blood, did you feel a sense of power or get a sexual gratification or something of the sort?
Yeah. That's the whole thing about vampires is the whole sexual erotica with the blood drinking and stuff. Whether it be consensual or vampire just attacks somebody and it's a thrill. And it gives me power too when I drink blood. I look a lot younger than I actually am.
How old are you then?
About between 2,600 and 3,000. Somewhere between there. One ID says I'm a 30-something and another says I'm in my 70s. We really don't understand or stuff how people live so long, but if you look at the Bible, Methuselah lives to be about 900 years old, so that really isn't too far-fetched. Every Christian knows what I am, and the Vatican knows what I am.
What was running through your mind after you had split the throat of Shirley, the woman that died in your first case, as well as the 3 men that survived?
I wanna drink that blood and the one that died, I took her soul to the underworld. And the others, I intentionally let them live. I didn't want to kill those other ones, so I didn't. I just did a little incision. They call me the Skid Row Slasher. But the 4 that I got arrested for was Shirley, Robert Kurtz, Fat Sid, and Willie Jackson. Those are the 4 I'm here for.
Did you know any of those individuals prior to stalking them?
No. That's why it took them so long to get me.
Did you think you were going to get away with it for the rest of your life?
For the time being.
Would you have kept killing and attacking and drinking blood had you been arrested?
Yeah.
What do you think it would have taken for you to not only stop attacking people, but giving up your quench of blood? You know, what would have?
Oh, I can't get rid of that. I can't get rid of quench my blood, but problem solved. Beef blood, beef, raw beef. That'd be the legal alternative to hunting and killing people. Beef blood and beef, raw beef. So I figured 23 years to life. I just do the 23 year base term, and I'll be up for parole. I would be getting out this month, but I caught the latest case.
In June of 2020, an inmate by the name of Aaron Kader, an inmate serving a life sentence for attempted first-degree murder, was killed while he was in the shower, and his injuries were consistent of that being attacked with a weapon. Since then, you've been charged with the murder, use of a weapon, and the special circumstances of having a prior murder conviction. Can you shed light on the incident? What exactly happened in the showers that night, the day he was murdered?
Well, he wanted to be sacrificed to Lucifer. He wanted to go to the underworld, so he even wanted to be there for a while. Since I know him from C&C, and that was when he first told me that he wanted to be sacrificed. So we separate for a bit, then he turns up in Stockton, and the day I did it, he got the razor blade and I was up there in the shower with the towel over the window. He comes in a moment later and breaks the razor blade and hands me a blade, and I did it. I don't think he felt much pain, if any.
So how did you kill him then?
I cut his throat, same MO as in my last one. if I remember right from the newspaper, my MO was a slash across the throat with something very, very, very sharp. And then I drank his blood. And then when I got done with that, I left the shower with the window cover still on there. And I made a phone call. And then I played cards. At the end of the day, they find him in the shower. And they did a code 3, unresponsive inmate, yada, yada, yada. They try and bring him back. They try and shock him to life. That doesn't work. And then they came and questioned me. They tried to bring him back with CPR. But then the only reason why they charged me is because the camera puts me in the shower with him. And there's a bloody handprint on the wall, which was my left hand. So therefore, that's why they charged me.
That, my mother, she was very strict, so her chastisement was very strictly. So, yeah, she did a lot of beating. She didn't do no talking.
Have you ever been diagnosed with any mental illnesses?
Yes, I've been, when I was a kid, they was giving me riddles in school. They was giving me that for being hypo, fighting a lot, stuff like that, angry a lot, different things.
So, from what I know about you, you're gang affiliated. How did that happen? How did you become a part of a gang? And what gang are you a part of?
I started off into the gang life when I was young. I came to Seattle, but before I came to Seattle out of Boston, I started into the gang life at an early age. I started at the age of 12.
At the age of 12, and what gang were you a part of?
Santana Block Crips.
And how did you get into that gang? Did you have to do like a drive-by? Did you have to get jumped in?
In my days, you had to put in work.
You had to put in work, so you had to commit some type of crime against somebody to get the respect?
There you go. There you go. Can't go into details. Yes, you had to put in work. The robbery was at a 7-Eleven. I went in there one night coming from Federal Way, and I went inside the store. As I go inside the store, I goes up in there. So they got a white little clerk up in there. So I asked him for application. So he said he'll give me the application for a job there. So I wrote on the back of the application that this is a robbery. He said, "Are you joking?" I said, "No, I'm not joking." Then he hit the alarm. I said, "Hey, man, I'm just kidding with you." He said, "No, they on their way now." So when I walked out the store, the K-9 police picked me up.
So were you really trying to rob the place, or was it really just
I was going to rob his ass. Yes, I was going to rob his ass.
But did you just get afraid after he hit that alarm?
Yeah, as soon as that he hit the alarm, yes. I changed my mind. By not saying names, but it goes like this, man. I was in a dark world one morning. I got up one morning, and that's when it took place. But it didn't take place like people think that I just woke up one morning and just went out and started killing females, or started killing people. I got into it with one of them. So with my last victim, we got into it over drugs. I'll start with her. We was best friends. We got into it over drugs. She thought I took her drugs from her. I told her I didn't take her drugs. She's talking about, "Yeah, motherfucker, if you don't give me my money and stuff, I'm going to say this and that." So I said, "Oh, yeah?" So that's when she pulled the knife. And then when she pulled the knife, we got into a tussle. My hand got cut. So I stabbed her ass up. It was about 30, 40 times. So by the time I came back to reality, it was too late. She was already stabbed up. So I left her there. So I ran and I cut off. But I went back to my family members and I told them I think I killed somebody. So they didn't say nothing. They gave me money, so I left him. Dealing with Harrison. Harris was somewhere that she shouldn't have been. And she got caught up with a Jones got caught up with the same thing, being somewhere that they shouldn't have been. They was caught in my drug world of juice and sherm, my drug world, not even thinking. They was caught in something that they shouldn't have never got caught up in. And they got caught. In between my madness and my cold world. That's how they got caught up in it.
So you had 3 victims total, and so the first victim was Denise Harris, which you were just talking about. She was strangled.
No, Denise is not no first victim or nothing. She's in between them, but she was never the first victim of nothing.
No, are you responsible for more than 3? Because it's reported that she was your first victim.
Because I only gave them 3. I never gave them anything else.
How many are you responsible for then?
Who, in gang related, or you talking about in general?
In general.
Then it's plenty of more. In general, in gang and stuff, you got to remember into the gang life and everything else. That's hard to really say because it's going to be more than 15. But you're talking about gang affiliated. If it's gang affiliated, yes. And that, yes, it's only 3.
When you were in the act of killing, how did it make you feel?
Just like the mafia do. The mafia kill you and keep pushing, right? That's how it happens. I don't got no feelings.
So did it make you feel good? Did it get you off sexually, or did it please you in any way, shape, or form?
No, it didn't have nothing to do with no sex, really. It don't have nothing to do with that. It's just that the mafia kill, don't they? They kill the kill, right? I don't think they have a sexual thing. They just kill the kill. So if a person is involved in a certain thing, things happens, man. It don't have nothing to do with sexual. It don't have nothing to do with motivation or none of that. It's just that when my thing, for me, as another human being, I don't really give a damn about another human being. It's not my family, not my kids, not my wife, not my children. That don't matter to me.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think you don't have feelings in you to care about other people?
People didn't get feelings for me, so why should I have feelings for their asses? I don't got no feelings for them. If my mind say do what I got to do, just like I'm in prison. If my mind say do what I'm going to do to you, I'm going to do what I'm going to do to you. It don't matter what's the cause or so. I deal with that down the road. If that's supposed to be a motivation or a feeling, fuck it. That's the way life happens. I don't trust nobody. I don't deal with nobody. If a person cross me, I'm going to do what I got to do to them. It don't matter where we at. We could be next to the police. If I feel that you did something to me and I want to do you, I'm going to do you. I don't care.
So you feel like since nobody's cared about you your whole life, you shouldn't have any care or regard for anybody, whether it's man, woman, or child?
No, I would never hurt a child, but another man, woman, I don't give a fuck about no man or woman. And my last victim was caught up into a web. She created that. I didn't create that. She created that. If she never pulled that knife and we never got into it, she would have went home. But no, she's the one who created that drama. She created her own drama. She created that. She wanted to be the bad guy. She wanted to be the tough blood. So then she got what came to her. She said that I took her drugs. We was pointing all night. I came back from Portland from my wife. Me and my wife got into it. I came back from Portland. It was June the 30th. I came back June the 30th. I caught Greyhound bus. I came back. Because me and my wife got into it. We were supposed to move to Portland. And I came back. I left Vancouver and I came back. Me and my wife got into it because her whole family is blood. So I came back. So when I came back, I was at my mother-in-law's house, her grandmother's house. I changed clothes and I went downtown. When I went down to town, that's when I ran into her. So me and her was drinking and partying and kicking it. We was already partying and kicking it. So when we got into it downtown across from the Kingdom over near the Airway. It's called Airway Way. That's where we got into it at. We was already having sex and everything else. We was already friends. We was kicking. But no, we was both using drugs. The bitch pulled the knife. I told the same thing I'm telling you. If first she didn't do that, she would have went home. But no, she wants to pull the bad guy. So I snapped. When I snapped, before I came back to her, I wasn't going to go in and call the police and say I just murdered a motherfucker. No, I didn't tell them that. That's the truth. They ain't got nothing to do with I was hunting her ass down. We was pointing. We was kicking it. And that's how she got killed. The other two was similar. They got nothing to do with her. So they booked me because I already said what I did to her. They didn't book me on the other two. The other two, you could say, okay, then he was hunted. He was hunting folks. That's different. Liberty was not being hunted. She was nothing in there. She got caught up into the web when she went and pulled the knife. And when she done that, that's when everything took place with me and her. Read the records.
Were you hunting that night, and were they on the wrong place at the wrong time because you were hunting?
Yes. That's what you could say, yes.
And how did the hunt feel?
Feel like everything, like I hunt Bloods and Crips. Same way I hunt G's and Bloods. I could stop for years. I could stop for months. I could stop for whenever I want to stop.
Have you ever been violent in the past with any relationships or sexual encounters?
I never had no sexual encounters. Violence, yes, I'm always violent. I'm violent to those that I don't give a fuck about.
Which is pretty much anybody fair game, right? From the sound of it.
There you go. There you go.
What was the reason for confessing to the triple homicide?
No, I was playing games with the police. I figured I'd tell them that. I tell them somebody else did it, then they'll let me back out. But it didn't work like that. I got caught up, and that's when the confession came out.
Did you feel bad? Is that why you confessed, or I know you said you were playing games. I know you said you were playing games, but did you also feel bad at all at the time?
No. They wasn't telling the truth. The course was lying. The prosecuting attorney, they was lying. So fuck them.
What were they lying about?
They wants to play. Yeah, they was lying. They was just making up shit. They was making up shit or going along. That's it. Never had nothing against me. They never had nothing to charge me with. If I never put myself inside that predicament, I would have never been incarcerated. They never had nothing. They just lied. They just made their own story. They made their own story. They put that label on me. They put everything of that on me. That's it. That was just a label they wanted to put on me. Jungle Killer and all of that old bullshit. Those was labels. Anyone could say a label. I can say that I'm an MC rapper. You know, you wants to put the labels. You wants to say he's hunting women. You wants to say that he's hunting different things. If you would have just said, okay, then Mr. Harris have killed it, 2 or 3 women, okay. But no, you want to say he's hunting. That didn't have no pattern. None of those had pattern. They talking about strangulations and all type of other shit. Ain't nobody was fucking strangles. Those were stabbing. You got a stabbing. You got a body was not even a body. You got one is already to the bones. So they made their own shit up.
What types of things did they say that they were lying that really made you upset? Can you pinpoint certain things that they were saying throughout the trial?
Because my victims was not strangled. My victims was not strangled. Then they said that I was going out hunting women and killing women and doing this and that. That was not even true, bro. That's not even true. That didn't have nothing to do with me like that. I just told you, and I was honest with it by telling you. At a certain time, a person got caught up in my web. That was it. That don't got nothing to do with it. I stopped. I was looking to hunt women. I've been with 100 women. Can't go into the details because I'm still into my court thing. But that don't got nothing to do with no damn shoe strings. Why don't I put shoestrings on everybody? I already said I admitted the crime. I don't got nothing to hide about the crime. I don't even really give a fuck about the crime. I don't care nothing about them. I don't care nothing about the state of Washington. I don't care nothing about none of them. I have no reason to sit here and make a bald-faced lie about something, but when you're making a bald-faced lie about he's doing this and that, then that's what pissed me off. They don't piss me off because you say I murdered some motherfuckers. I don't care nothing about that. That's why I got pissed off about. You lying. Tell the truth. You didn't even say that she was stabbed up. You didn't even say that. You come with the shoestring shit. You didn't say Robinson was stabbed. You say she was Harris. You don't even know how Harris died. You just talking about shoestrings. Come on, man. What I'm going to do, walk around with shoestrings or use people's shoestrings? Tell the truth. That's all I tell motherfuckers. Be truthful about something. Don't just say something that is not true. That's one thing. But when you're talking about something that ain't true, then that's another thing. Man, you know what I thought about that trial? I thought that trial was a joke. I thought that trial was a fucking comedy joke. So I'm sitting here, I tell the judge, I said, hey, I do not want to, this attorney, former attorney. She says, Miss Keachman says, no, he's going to be your attorney. He's giving the fucking prosecutor attorney high five and they kicking it. So, you know, when you're doing that, I'm not going to sit here in this comedy-ass joint and sit down and be quiet. So I said, okay, then if that's how y'all want to play this court, then we're going to play like that. Fuck the court. I got no respect for the court. I don't got respect for the justice system. So fuck them. That's how I look at it. I know every word. I know what I said. I said I'm going to penitentiary. I'm going to kick it with my homeboy. I'm going to walk the big yard. I'm going to smoke cigarettes. I'm going to listen to my boombox. I can go and see my family, but you can't see your family. Fuck them. Now, give me whatever you're going to give me. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. It don't matter to me. I don't give a fuck. That's what I said. I look at things different than what I looked back then. But at that time, in that situation, yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't agree with the system. I don't agree with the system today.
Let's talk about the crimes you're currently in prison for. You're convicted of 7 counts of murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and 1 count of criminal sexual assault. I want to talk about everything that happened in chronological order from November 6, 2003 up until August 31st, 2016.
Do you want to talk about the first murders, or do you want to talk about the first confirmed murders? Because they're not the same.
If you're comfortable about talking about the first murders, that would be great.
They can't punish me any more than they have, so I don't care. I've got basically the equivalent of 9 lives. I mean, you've got 7 consecutive life sentences plus 30 plus 30. Sounds like 9 lives to me. What else you going to do to me? So yeah, I'll talk about it. I was living in the Hunt Club apartments, and I started having a lot of harassment going on with the sex offender website, and people were posting things on the mailboxes, on my apartment, on my car, on neighbors' cars. Everybody, the apartment complex found out about it. Overnight, everybody knew that I was on the sex offender list, and nobody seemed to realize that this had happened when I was 15. They would see the printout at 31 years old and swear up and down that I had just done it last week. So there was really not a lot of tolerance of, okay, you're a 15-year-old kid, you're 31 now. Times change. They thought it just happened. So I caught a lot of hassle about it. And I started getting hateful phone calls. My boss started getting phone calls because the website used to show where you worked. And she started getting phone calls. And my landline got phone calls. And my mom told me at that time that,
I'm not a convict anymore. You need to handle this the appropriate way and call law enforcement. I did. I called the police out. My mom and her boyfriend at that time came to my apartment at the same time when the officer was there. I explained the situation to him, that I was being harassed because of this, and I played him the messages on my answering machine. At which point he informed me, you made this, you're on the website, deal with it. That's what I'm trying to do. No, you deal with it. Okay. And that was all he would offer. That's all they did. Then I went to my church when I was going to First Baptist Spartanburg, and I informed the assistant pastor, Steve Weiss, what had happened, and wanted some advice on how to properly handle this in, the proper way, not the prison way. And Mr. Weiss informed me that I should probably try another church, that this was not First Baptist Spartanburg. They were not interested. They liked me in church. They liked that I used to help out. They'd had no problems with me. But once this was an issue, we don't want to get involved. Try another church. So I did. I went to my grandfather when I was trying to basically, at least I couldn't stand him, but I was trying my best to, this was many, many years later, trying to help my mom out and just let bygones be bygones. I told him what happened. He went into the bedroom, came back with this little envelope with a stack of cash in it, slid it across the end of the armchair, looked at me and told me, do what the officer told you to do. Deal with it. The implied message was, go buy a gun or whatever you got to do and take care of it. Instead, I went to the Kmart at that time. I bought me 4 folding hunting knives and a whetstone. Spent the entire night sharpening the blades, and I carried 4 pocket knives at all times. In the process of this, the issue had stopped for a while, but when it started back up again, the phone calls, the harassment, and I went out one night to go play pool. I used to shoot on a bar APA pool team, and I left my apartment about 9 o'clock at night, and I had 2 guys who I'd never seen before in my life who met me in the parking lot, one with a knife and the other guy with a hammer, one of those small 12, 14-inch like kitchen hammers. They have a little fiberglass handle. And basically informed me that they were going to teach me a lesson and came at me with a knife. It did not go their way. The guy who came at me, the larger guy, which I was bigger than both of them, but the larger of the 2 came at me, and I cut him across his wrist where he was holding the knife. He dropped the knife, tried to kick me, and I cut him on the inside of his thigh, which is where I got the femoral artery, and blood went everywhere. Poked a hole in his chest, and he went down. I went over him towards the other guy, slipped it, almost fell on the floor because of all the blood in the parking lot. The other guy ran off. As he ran off, I caught him, grabbed him by his hair, stabbed him through the neck, and pushed outward, and I cut his throat from the right side artery and the larynx, and he went down. The whole time this was going on, my neighbor who lived upstairs worked in the newspaper, and they were having a poker game, and I was freaking out that I was going to get rearrested for killing 2 people, and they were going to come out at any given moment and start screaming that there was bodies in the front parking lot. The officer who arrested me in 2016 was the courtesy officer at that apartment complex and lived at the building right next to mine. So the fact that I didn't get caught doing this surprised me. It scared the hell out of me. So I went inside, freaking out, went inside, got a shower curtain, came back out, put the small guy in the trunk of the car, tipped my seat back because I had a 2-door car, tipped the front seat back, put the larger guy in the front seat, wrapped up in a comforter, and was going back and forth through the kitchen, getting pitchers of water and splashing water all over the parking lot to get rid of the blood. Went driving, trying to figure out where to hide the bodies. Until you have had to hide bodies, you have no idea what is in store. You are freaking out. I had no idea where to hide bodies. I had never killed anybody before in my life, especially with a knife. And I was not familiar with Spartanburg. I drove to work. I drove home. I drove to church. I drove home. I drove to the pool hall. I drove home. I didn't know where the hell to go. I ended up on Highway 26 and going up and down frontage roads, trying to find a way to drop the bodies off. And every time I would pull over somewhere, I would see a light somewhere and swear it was the cops coming to get me and get right back in the car and drive off again. At the end of the night, I don't know where the hell I was. I ended up somewhere on a frontage road that I think paralleled I-26. I've got two bodies in my car, one guy in the trunk, which in a 91 Acura Legend, there's no room back there. Thank God the guy wouldn't be bigger because I almost couldn't get him out. I'm going down I-26. I had a choice, go towards the light, towards the center of town, or go down towards Columbia, which was pitch black. I chose pitch black. I've never even been down there before. I'm taking every off-road. Every time there's a frontage road and an exit, I'm taking it, trying to figure out where to put this, where to get rid of bodies. I have never done it. I'm scared shitlessly I'm going back to prison. Every red light I came to, I swore there was a camera looking at me. I'm paranoid. Heartbeat going a mile a minute. And I'm trying to figure out, what do I do now? I'm going to be blamed for this, even though they were the aggressors on this one. I just killed two people. I'm so going to prison forever. I'm trying to find a place to put bodies. And if you've never had to do it, it's not a good feeling. All your good little ideas of dump them in a dumpster or, go behind here, go behind there, don't work. Every time I pulled over to a bridge or I pulled behind someplace that looked like it was deserted, all of a sudden I would see lights coming. The lights were probably nothing. They weren't flashing blues. They were just headlights. But I would panic, and I would haul ass back out of there. I hit I-26, I can't tell you how many times, taking off ramp, and come right back. At the end of the day, I don't know whether I was on 385, 26, I don't know where I was, because I kept getting off and getting back on. I came to a frontage road, like I said, that had the road ends, the picket sign crosses the whole back of the road with road ends in orange. And I got him out of the car, and I dragged him about maybe 30, 40 feet behind the signs. There was just a little depression. I didn't even own a shovel. I just put him in the depression, and I threw whatever brush, tree limbs, whatever I had, I threw it on top of them. I mean, I had pulled their wallet out to see if I could figure out who they were. I don't know who they were. I had never seen them before. I have no idea. I don't know what their vehicle is. I don't know if they had walked in there or if the car was in the apartment complex. I don't know them. I just know that one had a knife and one had a hammer, and they came at me. Their bodies are somewhere behind that sign, somewhere. Many years later, I told the cops about it after I got arrested, and they came down, wanted the bodies. I wasn't real comfortable about giving them the bodies, but then I said, all right, fine, I'll give them to you. But they gave me all these photos of various exits, and I told them, I have never been on these exits. If they will just take me out there quietly, they've done it before, don't bring the media involved, let me go out there, put me at the end of the frontage roads, and I'll tell you if it feels right, because I remember seeing the highway to my left-hand side. Let me go out there and see if it feels right, if that's the right location. If it is, bring me back to my cell, and then you can bring your dogs out there and see if you can find them. They never did that. Instead, they put it all over the news that I was going to be out there. Then they never took me out there. Then they searched every exit that I told them no, that I had never been at. They ignored the exit that I told them was a maybe, but I couldn't confirm until I saw it, but it looked right. They ignored that exit. And the news media carried that I was being difficult, that I would not tell them the sex or the race of the victims. And I don't know how two middle-aged white guys is so hard to understand. Two middle-aged white guys pretty much says, there's your race, there's your sex. But I was supposed to be being difficult. At this point, they still haven't found the bodies, and I really don't care about bothering with it anymore. It doesn't change my life one way or the other.
Did the bike shop murders follow that, or were there other murders before the bike shop murders?
No, the bike shop was the next one. Right before the apartment murders, I had bought a motorcycle, bought the bike, and actually I bought it on the day my grandmother died. So as soon as I got the bike home, I couldn't even ride the bike. I told them that I was a novice. I had never ridden a bike before. I had no clue how to ride one, but I really, really wanted one. I went off and bought a crotch rocket, and quite honestly, I mean, I'm 30-some years old, and I think as soon as I get a crotch rocket, that the sky is going to open up, and hot Asian chicks are going to fall from the sky and fall on top of my bike. I mean, it doesn't work that way, but hey, fantasies are awesome. I bought the bike. They then laughed when I tried to ride it out of the bike shop. And I kept popping the clutch because the guy told me just go ahead and wind it up and it just released the clutch. I'm surprised I didn't kill myself right there in the parking lot. They laughed at me, thought it was funny. My mom's boyfriend was with me at the time. He talked me into go ahead and ride the bike to my apartment complex. And that way I didn't kill myself on the highway. You know, give me some time to learn how to ride it in the apartment complex in the parking lot. They did. Took delivery, and then I had to go deal with my grandmother who had passed away. I had only found this out after I had signed the paperwork, and then Bob got the phone call that grandmother had passed. I had the bike for 14 days. The bike got stolen. I called the cops. Cops came out, and the officer's attitude towards me, and I'm usually pro-law enforcement. For me being in prison and all this, I'm not anti-law enforcement. I'm the one who screwed up. I'm not mad at them. But this officer decided to tell me that it's a shame that the motorcycle had been stolen, that he hadn't had time to give me a ticket yet. Yeah, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate the thought. Some officers are good. That one was not. It happens. But the bike got stolen, and then right after that is when I had the two guys at the Hunt Club who came at me where I ended up killing them. And this was back March, April, something like that of 2001. I was going to Greenville Tech, taking classes, trying to figure out where I was going to go. I was taking the class because it was cheaper to take them there than go to USC Upstate, which is where I transferred to the next year. But I would go out to the bike shop, and I had heard that they were running a chop shop. I went all over the place. When my bike got stolen, I was pissed, and then I had these two guys, the situation that happened there. I was irate. Didn't even carry a gun at that time. I'm running around trying to find out what's going on, who took my bike. I'm pissed. And I left the bike shop after hearing that, and I confronted them, and I told them that I had heard they were running the chop shop, and words were said. All they had to do is look at me and go, do you see your bike? No. We don't have it. There's rumors about bike shops. Every bike shop has a rumor of being a chop shop or being drugs or something. I was just pissed off. All the man had to do was tell me the rumors are bullshit. Instead, Brian Lucas looks at me and goes, "Fuck you. We took your bike. What are you going to do about it?" I went, "Excuse me?" I did not expect that. I mean, him, Brian, Ponder, Sherbert, the so-called mechanic, he really just did oil changes and mowed the grass. They're all laughing at me, thinking it's funny. What? He goes, "You heard me. What the fuck are you going to do about it?" I don't really know, but I'm going to do something. I had no idea how to take that. I did not go off. I'm just sitting here going, I did not expect to be told, "Fuck you. What are you going to do about it?" So I left. And I went home, and I talked, and I went walking laps, and I kept thinking over and over again each day, hearing Brian telling me, "What are you going to do about it?" And it got to me, and I got pissed. And I went and made some phone calls, got in contact with some people, and I mean, it's another story. I ended up working for an arms dealer. Believe it or not, moving crates. All I did was move crates. Pick the crate up, put it on a pallet, put the pallet on a truck, go where I was told, put the pallet on the other truck, get it in an envelope. Got the money to pay for my pilot's license, and I made the money to buy a gun. The gun came first. Went back out to the bike shop maybe 2-3 months later, and was kind of wondering, were they just talking shit? I pretty much wasn't sure if they were just full of it or if they really taken my bike. And I was upset, but I went out there, gave him another chance to go out there. I figured I'd walk in, and maybe the guy would just tell me, "Hey, we were pissed off. Things were said. Hey, we didn't mean it. Maybe we can work out a deal on another bike or something." Instead, they're laughing at me and thought it was funny. And Brian looks at me and goes, "Oh, you came to lose another one, huh?" Okay, so you want to play this game. So I started looking for where cameras were and started realizing traffic and, where the cameras were up and down Old Furnace Road. And at that time, you had Google Earth and all that. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, where's, how far is it to the police department, and how far, where the different gas stations were that if I drove by, could my car be seen on the cameras? And I figured out how to get out there without being seen on a whole lot of cameras. And on November 6th, I went back out there. I had actually left my college class. I was doing a art class in Greenville. Art history. We had an exam that day, and when I got done with the exam, I got to leave. I got in the car and I drove to Bowling Springs, the CVS parking lot, and in the back parking lot, I put on my shoulder holster and I had a Beretta 92 FS, and I made sure the gun was loaded. And the shoulder holster, I put it on. I had a black Columbia fleece jacket that I put on over it, so you couldn't see the gun. And I drove out to Superbike Motorsports, which is in Chesney. Went inside, made sure as I opened the door that I used the sleeve of the jacket to open the door so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. And as I went inside, there was a guy that was trying to do a deal with them for a layaway for a go-kart for his kid. He had his kid there. And I don't shoot kids. There's a lot of things I'll do. I had no problem shooting everybody in that store, but I'm not shooting a kid. So I went right past him, and I went to the back showroom, and I sat on I think it was a Kawasaki Katana, black Katana, and I sat on the bike and waited until the guy left with his kid. I didn't even know the mom was even in the building. I guess she had come in while I was in the back and went to the bathroom. I never knew she was even there. So as soon as the guy left and I could hear him leaving, A few minutes later, I told them that I would go ahead and take the motorcycle, that I would buy it. They thought it was real funny. I'm going to buy another bike. And they told Sherbert, the mechanic, to come get it, to take it to the back room, to go ahead and do the service on it, put the gas in it, put the oil in it, and they would have the paperwork for me in a few minutes. He went to the back there with the bike. I stood around for a few minutes, and then I went ahead and went through the back door and went into the garage section where the bike was being prepared, and pulled the gun out, walked up behind Sherbert, and put 2 rounds in him. So I shot him over the bike because he was on the left-hand side working on the bike doing the oil change. So shot him, went, turned, kind of thought, oh shit, okay, it's really on because I just shot somebody. So, I mean, it's definitely, we're in contact now. And I made a right turn and went through the door to go towards the front showroom. And there's a thin black plastic door, kind of like one of those fly things to keep back and forth. It was a solid sheet, so you really couldn't see in the garage. And when I put my arm up to go through it, all of a sudden I had the mom right there in my face. It was just instinct, and I shot her through the heart. I'm pretty sure I always double tap everybody. I always shoot twice. So I have to assume the second round went between her side and her arm, and I missed. And that was one of out of 18 rounds fired that day, I missed 4 rounds. I only missed 4 times. I'm almost positive I missed her on the second round. Shot her in the heart. She dropped. Scott and Brian had been running up towards her and were about 12 feet away when I came to the door. Brian was behind Scott Ponder and actually pushed his friend. He pushed Scott towards me while he pushed off to run away. And I had to put my hand up to make sure that Scott didn't basically knock into me. I think both of our eyeballs got big. But he stopped and went to run the other direction. Brian was already halfway to the door, and I started sending rounds down range. In the process of this, I went through, this is back when we had 10-round magazines. You couldn't buy high capacity at that time. They had not opened that back up, so I had all 10-round magazines. Went to the first magazine, had walked up to Scott's side. I put 3 rounds that I had missed along the back wall. Changed magazines, swapped out magazines underneath my armpit, and got the slide back forward. And that actually, I think I was slapping the trigger. Before that, I was jerking the trigger. Once I changed magazines, I calmed down, and all my rounds went where I need them to be. Went right up Scott's side. Brian had jumped through the door, and as he jumped through the door, I shot him in the hip, which is where he stayed. Scott actually got through the door and went outside and was on the sidewalk. When I got to Brian, before I walked over him, I shot him in the head. Then I went to the sidewalk where Scott was. He looked up at me. No words were said, but you could see it. You could see the look in his eyes that he knew what was coming. He knew why I was there, and I shot him in the head. And then I went back inside, went to Beverly, who was the mom, shot her in the head, then went to the back building and shot Sherbert in the head. Cleared the building, went to the whole building to make sure there was nobody else there. As I passed the office on my way out the door, there's the cash register right there. Didn't touch, I don't steal, so I didn't take any money. And Scott had a $10,000 cash on his desk, where he liked to always brag about how he had cash to buy a motorcycle, whatever he needed. He always kept cash on him, and he had a Glock 23. They had 3 guns. They didn't use them. I did. So the gun stayed there, the cash stayed there. I touched nothing. Went out the front door, got in the car, put the gun on the floorboard of the car, and calmly drove into traffic so that I would attract attention. and I was gone. I drove home, went to my apartment complex, got out. The gun got taken apart, and I actually dumped the gun parts, the barrel and the gun, in separate piles of cat litter, because I had a cat at that time, and I put them in 2 different bags of cat litter, and all my clothes either went in the laundry or got thrown away. The shoulder holster, the gun, the ammo, all of it got taken apart, put in the trash, taken to the dumpster, and thrown in the dumpster. While I was doing my laundry and cleaning things up, my mom called me and wanted to know if I wanted to go to dinner. Hey, free dinner. Yeah, I'm in. So I went and met her at IHOP, where I had dinner with my mom, had a Colorado omelet. My hearing was messed up. I had shot a 9mm 18 times inside of a steel building. My ears were ringing for 3 days. I couldn't hear half of what she was saying. But she did most of the talking, and I had dinner.
The day of the 4 killings, what was running through your mind in between shooting the 4 individuals?
Nothing. You mean in between each person I shot? I mean, it was very mechanical. I mean, I knew how to shoot. I had taken time to learn how to shoot. I shoot an awful lot. Years later, I mean, I shoot 400 rounds a day. You know, I didn't at that time. At that time, I didn't even come close. But years later, I mean, I shot every single day. But, I mean, I was trying to focus on getting my hands together, making sure I interlocked my thumbs, not jerking the trigger. I was focused on the mechanics. I really wasn't focused on people. Shooting 4 people was almost the best way I can call it is mechanical. It's kind of like a video game, except you don't have the music and you're not moving around that way. You're focused on not slipping and proper foot placement and getting on target. You know, the slide lock back, you swap magazines, you hold on to the magazine so you don't drop it. You don't want to leave any fingerprints. When I load my guns, I always wear 2 pairs of latex gloves, so I don't have to worry about any rounds, any fingerprints or DNA on any rounds. So when I load my guns, I wear gloves. When I'm shooting, I don't. So I didn't have to worry about the brass. Wasn't my problem. My focus was stopping 4 targets before they could get away. I wasn't focused on anything else. If anybody had walked in that building, they just would have been a target. I mean, I was literally on autopilot. Move, shoot, shoot, move, shoot. There was no emotions. There was trying to complete, very, very mission specific. I was trying to complete what I wanted to do. I wasn't upset until afterwards when I actually started calming down going, oh, damn. Okay, well, I'm probably going to prison for that one. I wasn't entirely sure I was going to get away with it. I mean, when I went home, I kept checking the news, the online, the newspaper, and every day they had stories. You know, this hit international news. Was it a drug deal? Was it a gang? Was it organized crime? Was it disgruntled employee, disgruntled customer? Every day that went on, if they didn't leave with anything, I calmed down a little bit more. Then they released a photo, a sketch, and that sketch didn't look anything like me. It was some skinny Italian-looking kid, either Italian or Hispanic. It was kind of hard. He had almond-shaped eyes, but they did a drawing that, I mean, wasn't even in the ballpark. And I went, okay, yeah, go get him. Leave me alone. They released another drawing that wasn't even close. Finally, by the time they actually got the guy to do a drawing that they thought it was right. The guy had been there. The guy who had had the kid with the go-kart. The one he said, yes, that's right. That drawing was spot on. It looked like me. If they had shown that drawing the first time, they probably would have arrested me because people would have known my face. but they had shown the first drawing and the second drawing that was so off that nobody was paying attention.
From the moment you fired your first shot and after you fired the last shot, how long was the entire incident?
Probably took me 30 seconds. It's a 6,000 square foot building. I already knew there was nothing on the far left side, so it didn't need to be dealt with. I entered the building. It probably took me 30 seconds from first shot to last shot. Well, excuse me. First shot till I cleared to the front of the parking lot. Then I worked my way back through the building to the far back where the last shot was where I started, which was with Chris Sherwood. And then through the building again. I'm guessing a minute and a half from the time of first shot till I was in my car. Minute 45 seconds. By the time I was back in the car on Old Furnace Road, a minute 45 seconds max. I moved. I mean, I wasn't there to argue. I wasn't there to say anything. There was nothing else to say. Everything I had to say, I said with my trigger finger. There was no argument. There was no little comments. This was not an Arnold Schwarzenegger moment. This was I came to put in work, do what I came here for, and go home. And that's what I did.
That was the 2-year anniversary memorable anniversary clips. For extra content, head on over to patreon.com/unforbidden truth. Thank you for listening. See you next week.